On behalf of the Indus Research Center, Roja Muthiah Research Library, invite all of you for this evening lecture. And I'm very happy to invite our friend, colleague, Mr. Sukumar Rajagopalan, who will be presenting on this very interesting topic on Indus civilization, the decipherment of some of the signs that he has identified. This was originally presented at the at an international conference a few weeks back in the Museum Theatre. That conference was organized by the Roja Muthiah Library and the Government of Tamil Nadu, the Department of Archaeology, Government of Tamil Nadu. So at that time, he did not have enough time to actually talk about, to present his paper fully. So we thought we will organize it again so that he can present his views fully, so that can be people can benefit from this very interesting idea, where he has identified certain signs and as related to the astronomy. In fact, he's even gone one step beyond and said that the entire astronomical idea was actually it originated from the Indus region and it spread to other regions. So this lecture has been organized under the Gift Siromoney Endowment lecture series. Some of you may know that Gift Siromoney was a teacher at the Madras Christian College. He was at the Department of Statistics. And interestingly, he has also worked a great deal on the Indus script. He was one of the first people to analyze the script using computers and statistics. And in fact, and all his papers are also available at the library here. If someone is interested, they can take a look at his papers. And this paper, which Sukumar is going to present, and also his earlier papers were as a part of Indus Research Center itself, because he has been associated with this center for a long time, since at least 2010, if I may say that right. Yeah, and we all presented together at the Summary conference in Coimbatore in 2010, and he has been working on this subject continuously. And this idea, which he proposed some time back, I think he would have taken at least 4 or 5 years to present these ideas. I'm happy that he will be presenting the full paper today, and I'm sure you will have a lot of questions at the end of the talk. We can have a nice discussion. I'm also happy Mr. Balakrishnan, who is the head of the Indus Research Center, is here with us today. So now I welcome you once again, and I present the podium to Sukumar.
Thank you, sir. Can you please turn on my mic? Am I audible? Yeah, so thank you, Sundar sir, for the kind words. So when I started, I have been associated with the Indus Research Center in 2009. So by chance, I attended a presentation of Parpola in the center, Parpola, Parpola. And then Iravatam Mahadevan sir was there. So I went and approached him and said, I want to volunteer here. He immediately started helping me. So I'll tell some of the things that I learned from him. But Dr. Gift Siromoney, I'm presenting the Gift Siromoney lecture. I never thought that in 2009 there will be a day that will come that I will make a presentation in this RMRL institution, which is a fantastic institution. I hope more people support it. So I went back, I read a lot of papers, including Dr. Gift Siromoney's paper. I went back and reread, and I found something interesting. The jar sign and the lance sign, he concluded that they never occur together. And this is true. So I went back and checked indusscript.in. You can also check. Now that's an interesting feature. So I went and studied English, which the language I'm most familiar with. In English, you can never find a word that does not have any of 2 letters. Like there is no word like that. The best I could find was VX and JQ and ZQ, but there are words with those combinations also. Now this is very important because that shows that It is not it is more logographic, because this, I'm going to tell you what is the actual meaning of these two signs that I have tried to find. And it makes sense that they can never occur together. So I start my speech with an invocation to my teacher. In 2009, when I met him first, he has spent countless hours with me in his house in Narumoge apartments, where I went many times. He sat with me patiently and explained to me how to write papers, how to think about this. I don't know why anybody will do that, and already his health was not very good even at that time. So that I couldn't express enough gratitude. But it so happens that his paper that he wrote in 1972, which is called the bilingual parallels, which I believe is a key instrument for decipherment. Unfortunately, this paper never received much attention. So I'm going to speak to you about that. Now, there are two people here, and this is not a politically correct slide I have put. Balakrishnan sir and Sundar sir, they have made great contributions, and without their encouragement, I wouldn't have come this far. Because what I am presenting, so whenever I present this paper, I am filled with immense self-doubt. Because any decipherment claim that is made in the Indus civilization context is usually seen as a fringe person. And every week you hear somebody who has deciphered something. So it's very easy that I could be added to that list. So whenever I get on the stage, I am filled with self-doubt. Even today I am. And 2 years ago, I went and presented this paper in a conference. And you will not believe that one of the prominent researchers got up and said, your entire paper needs to be scrapped. That kind of attack I have never experienced from a fellow researcher. It took me several months to come out of that. So I called Sundar sir, that this is what happened. And he said that, hey, I had only deciphered one seal at that point, right? He said, what you have done is good, but you have not shown that this interpretation holds across multiple contexts. Until you do that, you are going to face this kind of criticism, and there is no way around that. Now, the problem is nobody has deciphered the Indus script. So, how do we know what is the context? Even though he said something very important, that's a very challenging thing, right? It still bothers me, but we will see what we have done for that. Now, Balakrishnan sir physically came to this facility and listened to my paper and said, yes, this is good, you should continue. Now, how many people are going to do this in the research community? I don't know, which is why I think these two people are very, very important for our community. Now, when I presented this in the Indus seminar, I did my gratitude in the end. By the time I got there, I ran out of time, so I want to start with this here. Now, Nirmala Guru Raj is here. She is a software person, so the IndusScript.in. I think I couldn't thank RMRL enough for IndusScript.in. Without that, we couldn't have done anything, any of what we are going to show today. So Nirmala was able to extract some of that information, make queries, special queries for me. Some of the outputs I'm going to show to you today. I am immensely grateful to her and her niece, Ria Haridas, who is all of 16, studying 10th grade in America. Somehow she helped me. Some of the Archaeo-Astronomy calculations I did, she wrote the Python programs, did the research, all of that. So I'm grateful to them. There are many people in RMRL, Manikanda, Subbu, Sundar sir, so many people who have helped me. And I recently found this Baluch person, Basham Zain. Okay, so I have been making these statements that you will see about the Mohenjo-daro, which I have never visited, and there are no real pictures of what I am talking about. I read in the books. He was able to go there and shoot the pictures and send it to me. I am not sure I have the time today to show you, but I will show you that. This is, I would say, the most important book that I've ever read. I just don't know how anybody can have that kind of scholarship. Asko Parpola. It is a tremendously important book. I have read it cover to cover so many times that I have lost count of it. This is just a stunning piece of work, and it was written in 1994. Very important book. Very grateful to him. We have built on his theory, Mahadevan's theory, Balakrishnan sir's theory of the toponymics. There's many things this is built on. So science proceeds by building upon other evidences. So which culture originated astronomy? Sundar sir stole my thunder a little bit. But if you didn't know this, which culture would you have attributed this to? Who do you think originated the astronomy if you didn't know IVC did it? Sorry? Sumerian. Yeah, I will keep asking some questions just to keep the engagement going. Sumerian. That is actually very knowledgeable. Most people will say Greek. For you to even know that it is Babylonian actually needs some amount of subject matter knowledge which most people won't have. Mostly they'll say Greek. That's not correct. So there are two brilliant concepts the Harappans originated. One is the Nakshatra wheel, the 27 star system. Now Parpola has proven this with enough research that is from the early Harappan period. If they can do that in 3200 BCE or before, it has to boggle your mind. I get goosebumps thinking about it. Now, Parpola, in his infinite wisdom, doesn't talk much about the zodiac wheel, which was also originated by the Harappans. I will show you how they did it. Now, so one of the things that I want you all to know is they used naked eye astronomy. They had no telescopes. They could spot Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. You can all say we can also see it. But their brilliance comes from the ability to spot this concept of a lunar node, which we today call Rahu and Ketu. The points in the elliptical orbit that moon follows, there are 2 points at which lunar and solar eclipses occur. They knew this. Not that they knew this, they could calculate it to show when it would arrive. This is just simply remarkable for the period they were in. Okay, so this is the next seal I'm going to show you is probably one of the most fantastic tablets. This is a tablet 2-sided. I am going to walk you through it more in detail, but I want to try to capture your attention because this lecture could get very abstract very quickly. So this is in the constellation of Leo. We will see why they use the tiger later. In the Dhanishta in Aquarius, Dhanishta where moon is there, it's a conjunction with Venus. So Venus is also rising on the same day. There is a festival. Now, how do we know this? If you look at these swastikas, there are 5 of them. Can anybody see something interesting about these swastikas? They are not as straightforward as they seem. There is a uniqueness in this. Can anybody see what that is? Sorry, Soumya? One of them is turning in the opposite direction. Now, I have lost count of how many hypotheses I have spun for this because I knew that this is a very unique seed. There's only one of its kind. In the Indian culture, anything that has 5, I have tried it. 5 elements, 5 this. I even thought 5 Anjara Petti. Like that also has 5. What is this 5, right? Finally, all the theories will break when I come across this. This is called the swastika. This is the left turning swastika. It turns out this is the Venus cycle, which is one of the most remarkable cycles in astronomy. Each swastika represents a 584-day cycle. And next 584 days, it revolves in the other direction. This they figured out. Okay, so this seal is showing the Venus Octennial festival they celebrated 8 years. I have also found that they celebrated in the same way as we celebrate Mahamagam today. So they all congregated in the great bath. All the people from the various Indus cities came there, like we do the Mahamagam festival. Now the Mahamagam festival is attributed to Jupiter and it is a 12-year cycle. I believe the astronomy shifted from Venusian to Jovian during the amalgamation with the Vedic people, but it was Jovian. Now you see this thing here. It's called the granary by the researchers. I think this is the moon temple. This Basham Zain who went there, this structure has been destroyed. 2 weeks ago, they held some event which flattened this structure. Luckily, Google Earth has captured it. So this is an image from Google Earth. So some of our pristine cultural artifacts will be gone if this is how it will get treated. Anyway. So now this is the first ever seal that was discovered. This is known as the Cunningham seal. This represents a Mercury-Venus conjunction on a vernal equinox day. We did the Archaeo-Astronomy calculations with the help from Nirmala and Ria. We could only spot once or twice this whole thing happens in a 100-year period. This is so remarkable that I don't know what you all think. This is like stunning. They are able to spot something that happens once in 100 years, twice in 100 years, and celebrate that occasion. How I interpret that, I'm going to show you. I'm just trying to catch your attention. So this is the mean plus 7. This is, I believe, today celebrated as the Arudra Darshanam, but it has a astronomical festival called the Chemmin Elumin Viravu. This is the occultation of Rohini. This is another astronomical phenomenon. We don't even know that today. We think it's a festival for Shiva. In some ways it is, but it is pre-Vedic. This one, the fish plus 6 numbers, this has already been identified by Parpola as the Pleiades or the Kartigai. I believe it represents the Kartigai festival that we still celebrate. Now, we may not be celebrating it in the same way as the Indus people did, but this festival has been around. So now let me give you a few challenges that I've encountered. The first one is, there is no Rosetta Stone or Bohi Stone inscription, which allowed us to decipher the Egyptian and the Sumerian cuneiform. I believe Mahadevan's bilingual parallels will allow us to decipher, and we don't need the bilingual inscription, which we are unlikely to find. I am sorry to say, because once the Indus civilization collapsed, writing next occurs in the Indian continent 1200 years later. So I am not sure we will ever find a bilingual inscription, and I believe we don't need that. So what is this bilingual parallel? The word bilingual parallel, which Mahadevan sir used, is actually a contact linguistics phenomenon. Those of you studying linguistics, when two cultures commingle with each other, words move back and forth. I want to give you some examples from English, which is a culture that dominated us for quite a while. So what is this word? What is this fruit? You all know. But where is this name coming from? In which language? The word mango. Tamil, manga. Now you make it into mango. There is no connection between the meaning of why we call manga in English. I'll give you one more example. Jackfruit. It comes from Malayalam. What is the word? Chakapam. So payam is fruit, that's all right. But chakkai becomes jack. That makes no sense. But this is how words move across cultures. What about this juggernaut? Do any of you know what is the meaning of the word in English? It is an unstoppable force. You know why they came up with that name? When the English people were observing the Jagannath Yatra, which is a procession like that, people get trampled under the force of that because they can't stop it. Thousands of people are pulling it. If you come in between, you're crushed. That's it. End of story. So they said that is juggernaut. It has got no connection with the Jagannath Yatra or anything. Now I'm going to show you how the same thing has happened between Vedic and Dravidic. Okay? Words can travel across cultures with no regard to its original meaning. I want to tell you the Jerusalem artichoke, but I don't have the time. You can Google it. So, and I also want to give you some techniques because many of you may not be familiar with the Indus civilization and how we could potentially decrypt it. This is Parpola's theory anyway. This is the Rebus method. Can anybody tell me which word this represents? You do have to answer me, otherwise it will get boring. Belief. Exactly. Now, one of the things in the Indus thing is, right, only English can unlock this rebus. I don't believe you can construct a rebus that represents multiple languages. So there is this thing floating, oh, Indus was multilingual. That's political stuff, in my opinion. So the lingua franca of the Indus was Dravidian. I don't know why this is so hard to accept, but this is like multilingual rebus is not possible. You can't construct belief. For example, if I read it in Tamil, I'll read it as Keni Ilai, which will be what? T, I don't know. It wouldn't lead you to belief for sure. So you can't construct a rebus that represents multiple languages. I don't think that's possible. If any of you have done it, show me. So now let's go to Egypt. Okay, this is one of the oldest inscriptions discovered in Egypt called the Narmer palette. It has two symbols, a catfish and a chisel. So the catfish is Nar, chisel is Mer in their language. So don't ask me how that is. So Narmer is represented by these two symbols. Now the interesting thing is by 2700 BCE, as they start to develop their script, these two symbols no longer are part of their alphabet. They choose to use simpler symbols for Nar and Mer later on, because these are just too complicated for them to write and carve, whatever. Now, why is this important? I'm going to tell you, because you are like, why am I talking about Egypt? Now, let's come to Indus. This is the famous rebus of the Venus identified by Parpola. There is the mean symbol, and then there is two strokes. Can anybody guess why this is Venus? There's a little bit of hint on the screen. Yeah. That is very good. Okay. But this is a rebus, right? Rebus means it has like the bee leaf. Yeah, but two strokes, why would it represent white? No, but two strokes. Okay. This is what Parpola has done. Two strokes, there is a gap. It's not written this close to each other. So when we moved it to the Indus symbol, we made it like too close. It's actually written slightly with a gap. So that is what Veli in Tamil. Now Veli is Velli. Provided you put this mean, it means the context has been set. So Velli. Now look at the bilingual parallel. Somebody said white, so that is Ven mean. The original name of Venus in Dravidian, in Tamil as well. Ven mean or Velli mean. So the Vedic people took the Ven mean, converted it into Shukla, which is white in Sanskrit. Now through another linguistic phenomenon called L or rotacism, it becomes Shukra, which is the word we use today. In fact, I don't know anybody that calls the Shukran by Velli. So this is the words can change. You're all with me so far? Okay. Now this is the interesting thing. So I tried to decipher this rebus using Sanskrit and Munda. I cannot. So it is not possible that this can be unlocked by any other language other than Dravidian. Now there are more problems, right? The average sign sequence is 4.6. Everybody in the Indus community will tell you that. In fact, that is one of the first things you learn. But nobody will tell you that there are these symbols which occur all by themselves. That is the only thing found on the seal. A jar sign, a fish sign, and a land sign. What did they mean by that? That makes no sense when you come across it first time. So let's look at the statistics. Thanks to Nirmala's queries, I was able to produce this. 71% of seals have less than 4 signs. Fully 95% of them have less than or equal to 7 signs. The longer seals are 5%. I would say statistically, if you are a student of statistics, this is an aberration. In fact, look at this. 2 seals having 14 symbols. So I have to construct a model that confirms this 95%. I don't know anything about these, but I am not sure I need to. So 31% are just 1 and 2 symbols. And this is a 7 sign seal that I have been able to decipher, the Venus Octennial. So I have gone as far from 0 to 7, which covers 95% of the thing. This is the model that I am proposing. So the usual syllabic things won't work. You can't assign some syllabic character to the sign and then make that, into a decipherment. It doesn't make sense and it won't work. Most of the decipherment efforts are like that. So we propose a celestial omen because that has the high context subject matter. If I just tell you one symbol, you should know what that means. And I shouldn't be in that room. You should be able to read it and say, this is what it is. Then we have a potential decipherment. So what does that mean? This particular sign means it's a good omen. This means the bad omen. This is Venus. Because Venus is so important to the Indus people that the word for star was Veli. This is well attested in Dravidian literature. You can read that in my paper. I have given you the references. So the word for, maybe this is one of the first astronomical objects they started observing. The sun and moon is easy. Everybody will do that. So now let's go to another problem. The problem gets bigger, right? So this is a seal, which is the obverse of a seal, which is the boss, right? Where you hold the seal. It has these two characters. How will you explain that? You have to be able to explain that, right? What is this and this, all this stuff? Similarly, here there is the pot sign and the tree, on the other side this is there. Most models, in fact, I didn't know that there are two-sided seals that many until Nirmala started running queries for me. I thought two-sided seals were very rare. It turns out, I'll show you the statistics. It's like 710 inscriptions follow this series. So I believe that these are Omen series. So there's a Venus series, there's a Mercury series, this is the Mars series, this is the Equinox series, this is the Equinox symbol. So we are able to explain this obscure thing, which I don't believe anyone has even noticed so far. So we have tabulated this and we have put it in a GitHub site. You can actually go and look at these lists and make up your own mind. So you can look at it here, right? This is the Venus series. On one side you have the Venus, 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 Mars, 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 Mars. On the other side, I can't always decipher because they could be complicated omen. We have series for all of them, including for Rahu, which is the lunar node. Okay, this is the biggest problem. It turns out the seals have never been used. This came as a shock to me. You would expect the seal has been stamped somewhere. Is that what you all expect when somebody says seal? It turns out they have never been used. So why did they make this seal? Which means that I cannot justify. Let's say I put a name of, let's say I am a king of Harappa. I don't know if that such a thing is there. I put my name on it. Wouldn't I not stamp it everywhere? Is that reasonable to expect? So if they didn't stamp at all, why would they put the name on a seal? If you say trade data, which is the other popular idea, I have to stamp it on the trade to mark the transaction. It has never been used. That doesn't mean it is entirely unused. There are about 37 impressions from Lothal, which we know as a trading site. So they might have used some of it. I'm just saying it is very hard to say that royal names and trade data was there in the seals. I believe it's a celestial omen list. So let's go back to Parpola and his fish signs. I'm doing on time another, yeah. So another important finding, right, from Parpola. Parpola has made many important findings. He proves that the two strokes can represent Venus even without the fish being there. Because what are these people trying to do? They are so parsimonious with space. They want to communicate Venus, Octennial festival, everything in like such a small space. So once they understood the model, they no longer have to put the fish sign everywhere. They knew it. Now Mercury, he called it the Pasu mean because it's a dividing fish. Way mean, I think it's a very important finding. Saturn. Now Rohini, I have a problem with. He has written, I think, 4 or 5 pages on why he thinks this is Rohini. And he has connected that to the Potu that we all wear. Okay, because Potu is usually red in color. Now, in fact, when I did the Indus seminar, I was not aware of this. But can anybody say Pottu? That has another meaning in Tamil. It's this, but there's another meaning, which many people won't know. Any Tamil? Sorry? Pottu is also Karu. Karu as in fetus. Pottu. Poochi pottu parakala, அப்படி ஏதோ சொல்லுவாங்க. Pottu is Karu. So that is Karu mean, that is Rahu. So Mrigasirsham, I attributed this to Mars. It's not Mrigasirsham. Pleiades is fine. Big Dipper. This is another instance of the amalgamation with the Vedic people and things changing. This is Erumeen or Varayam, not the Big Dipper. So what happens is the Erumeen becomes Big Dipper over a period of time. We lost that we were tracking Varayam. Now, if, yes? என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க? So good question. So Pinkal and Nikandu, finally I found the answer. Karu mean and Sem mean. Karu mean, Rahu. Now the interesting thing about Rahu and Ketu is they are 180 degrees apart on the circle. So if I am tracking Rahu, I automatically track Ketu also. It's just 180 degrees apart in the zodiac wheel. So if Rahu is, according to the calculation, Rahu is in Taurus, then 180 degrees opposite Ketu will be there. Now they are not real planets, right? They are imaginary planets. Now Parpola has not given any explanation on why these things would appear all by themselves in a sea. Because if there should be another reason. For example, we can see a catalog of all the signs. We don't find any such. Which means they are directly communicating a meaning when they just put one symbol. So this is my interpretation, what I did with bilingual parallels. I think this is where the most important thing is. So Pagu mean is what Parpola says. It could be Arai mean, because it's a stroke, cut it in half, which is the meaning even Parpola uses. But half is Arai and Velli, Arai Velli. Now, what do we call Mercury in today? What is the name for Mercury in today's India? You all know this. Budan. Budan is not a Tamil word. That's what you use. So Araivalli sounds like Arivali. Now you can say this is a stretch, but I gave you examples of a mango and jackfruit and juggernaut. So this thing can happen. Okay? Venus, I talked to you about how Shukla and Shukra came about. Now here is the interesting thing, right? So this is a roof fish. Which is the fish that has a roof in the aquatic world? It's not actually a fish, but the Indus people might have thought that to be a fish with a roof on it. Which is it? The tortoise. Kurai. So there's a fish with a kurai. Which is it? Tortoise. Veidad. It's a slow moving. Saturn takes 30 years. But I found another reason why they thought it's the way mean. Saturn can be thought of as the roof of the entire world, because it is the outermost object that revolves. These people are so good in their astronomy, they could figure that out. They are spotting something that takes 30 years to come around once. Well, they are tracking 100-year-old things, so 30 is nothing. This is, I already told you, Karum Pambu and Sem Pambu. Why it is Karum Pambu and Sem Pambu? There is astronomy in that. I don't have the time for that, I will tell you later. Now here is the interesting thing. I believe this is the clincher of the bilingual parallel. Mars is called Mangal today. We still call Sevai. But Vadamori is Mangal. Now, do you all know which is the most inauspicious planet? It's Mars. If you have Mars in your horoscope, you have what is called as the Sevai Dosham or the Mangal Dosha in your horoscope. Now, why would they name an inauspicious planet as auspicious? Because Mangal is red in color. If you look at today Mars, it will be red. Red is auspicious in Dravidian. Now, broadly in Indian also. So they translated that to Mangal. And we have stuck to Sevai because Mangal doesn't make sense for us. We have stuck to that. So this is an example of how words move across. This is another interesting find of mine. Okay, Jupiter. This is a fish with horns. Okay, it took me a long time to crack this because this word is not present in Tamil anymore. In which language is the word Komban used in a Dravidian language? Malayalam. What is the animal? Elephant. So they could tell that Jupiter is big just by tracking its astronomy, its trajectory, and how long it takes and how bright it is. They could tell that it is the biggest. So they assigned it the elephant. Now these are all allographs. They also have 4 fish followed by 4 because they know that is the 4th planet. I think someone over there said Venus is 2, right? They knew that. 1 is Mercury, 2 is Venus, 3 is Mars, Jupiter is 4, Saturn is 5. That's why they have the allograph of 5 there. This is my interpretation. It represents the Kartigai festival, and here is another example of the bilingual parallel. We don't call it Arumin anymore. Correct? Do any of you say Arumin? We say Kartigai. But if you look at the root word from Sanskrit, Kart means cut. Now I was wondering how Arumin could become cut. Arumin could become cut. But because of Dravidian's grammatical construct, Arumin becomes Arumi. Aru also has the meaning of cutting. So when it gets translated, it becomes cutting fish. Aru, yeah. Moon becomes mu. Exactly. But then when you are translating from a source language, you don't know that. Or maybe you don't understand that fully. So you think Aru means cut because it's fairly easy. In fact, Dr. Brenda Beck was showing Babylonian. There also they use the knife for Kartikeya. So this cutting thing has gone there also. So Chemmin Erwin, I told you about the Rohini occultation. If you read about Rohini occultation, you will be so fascinated. That's just incredible they knew this. I don't have the time to go through it. So now we are coming to the celestial omen part. I have about 15 minutes, so I'll try to wrap this up quickly. 40% of IM77, I believe, is celestial omens. So this is a very important thing. Omens follow this if P then Q structure. Babylonians also had celestial omens. I believe it went from here to there. So this is the celestial omen in the Indus corpus. Mercury, bad omen. So there is a Mercury transit happening on a particular day, it's bad. Mars is moving in a retrograde fashion, prograde fashion, and this is a good omen. Just 3 symbols. This is an actual scene. Bad day. We still say Karinal and Nannal. So that's all I needed, one symbol to denote a day that is good, another symbol to denote the day is bad, but in combination it makes the full list. This is just this appearing, just this put to me. It is the transit of Rahu. When it moves into a zodiac, that day is, even now that is there, Rahu Ketu pair. Now, I know you are all not satisfied with this, so I picked this wonderful seal, and it has an actual date, 2200 BCE. It represents, now you can read it with me, Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, and it's a bad day. Now, thanks to Nirmala and all the Archaeo-Astronomy calculations, I can actually show you the actual dates on which these conjunctions happened, and you can see this for yourself as well. Now we come back to the Venus Octennial seal, right? So the 5 swastikas, the drummer. Now, is this a tiger or a lion? This. Tiger, you all agree? But today, this constellation is the Leo constellation. How did that happen? Who came first? Now, when I presented in the Indus seminar, somebody was arguing with me about this. We all can talk ad nauseum about the absence or presence of horses in the Indus Valley. Popular topic. But have you heard anybody talk about lions in the Indus Valley? They are not there. How come? They will choose to represent all the animals but not lion. Does that make any sense? So research shows that lions were present in the Indus Valley. I will give you the paper citation if you want to look it up. I don't have the time to go through that. It was there, but they choose to deliberately not represent the lion. Exactly. The culture that is just the neighboring culture, Sumerian, whom they traded, is a lion people. Now, today's India, are we a lion people or a tiger people? Originally, yes. But everywhere lion. CSK's lion logo. The complete lionization of India is complete. So, this is important. This is another important evidence that we originated the astronomy. So, I want to show you the Venus trajectory as they may have done it. Okay, 5,000 years ago. So, I developed a software to be able to do that. Hopefully, it works and the technology cooperates with me. Oh, I have to go to the, sorry. Apparently, I can't. I am connected, but I can't directly go to that site. Sorry. This is the trajectory. It starts in Leo. It goes to Pisces in 584 days. Okay. From there, it goes to Libra. Another 584 days. Now it's moving in the reverse direction. This is the second swastika. Now again it's going in the forward direction. This is the third swastika. It will go to Taurus. From there, I think it will go to Sagittarius. So every 584 days, it shifts 6 zodiacs, 180 degrees. Now it comes back to Leo. This is the day on which the Venus Octennial festival takes place. And the equivalent of the Mahamaham festival happens in the Great Bath. Can you imagine the spectacle that it would have been? All the people from all over the Indus, they came there. Now the Octennial seal was found in Harappa, but the festival happens in Mohenjo-daro. How come? Why didn't we find that Octennial seal in Mohenjo-daro? So this is a connected culture. They don't have to put the seal everywhere. They know that this day has arrived and that's that. So I have about 9 minutes. Let's see where we can go. So if you look at, now we are diving deeper into the 584 days. Okay. Venus has a 2-part cycle. For 9 months, it's a morning star. The next 9 months, it's an evening star. And for about 30-40 days, it disappears from the sky. You can't see it. So if you plot the morning star portion alone, it will look something like this. This is a picture from NASA. Now I flip that around and put it. This is how the swastika has come. So swastika represents Venus. The most traveled symbol in the world, which is swastika, represents. And I put why it's called Sempambu and Karumpambu. We can go through that later. So this is where the thing, all these cycles they knew. The lunar metonic cycle, which takes 19 years. The eclipse cycle, because they could predict the eclipses, which happen in 18 years and 11 days. This is called the Saros cycle, the Saturn cycle, the Jupiter cycle, the Mercury cycle. Now what they did was they used the sun as the reference to calculate everything. Sun takes 365 days, it's obvious to anybody. Even the astronomers of 5,000 years ago. Moon takes 27, 28 days, fairly obvious. But Venus, look at the calculation. 8 cycles in 5 years. I mean 5 cycles in 8 years. So it takes 228 days. It turns out the actual Venus period is approximately that. Somehow they calculated that. Now I know why. Now if we go to Mercury, it takes 116 days, which is approximately half of this number. Which is why this is RI Veldi. Jupiter and Saturn, even though it takes long periods of observation, it's fairly straightforward. So if you observe Jupiter today in a particular zodiac, 12 years later it will come to that same zodiac. If you plotted Saturn today, 30 years later it will come to the same zodiac. If you plotted Venus today, 8 years later it will come to the same zodiac. This is the strategy. Fairly simple. Now, Venus, Pinkala, Nikandu, why is this so important, right? Why should you track Venus? Because Venus and rainfall are closely associated. This is references from Sangam literature. And Pinkala Nikandu says Venus is a rain planet or Malai code. That is why it was so important. And why are snakes important and what is the connection? This is another interesting thing. The king cobra is the only cobra that builds a nest above the ground. Every other snake buries its nest under the ground. Now, why is that important? It turns out snakes are so smart, they know at what height they should build the nest. Because they can kind of predict how much monsoon will come. So the Indus people were observing with what height the snakes were building the nest, so they could tell how much rain was going to come. Now this seems outrageous to you all, but you can read all the papers that I have cited. In fact, not just snakes. Many animals can predict based on the moisture content that they can perceive. So this is not some outlandish theory. Now we go to the last part of my presentation. This is a medieval thing from the Islamic world. What is the animal here? You are sure it's tiger? Leopard, not lion, right? But this has been assigned, this is a jar that shows the Leo constellation. So this is another case of the bilingual parallel. When it goes from Indus somewhere, tiger got changed to lion. Anyway, it's a imaginary construct, right? Something that looks like a tiger in the sky, you can very well make it think it's a lion also. Now, this is I believe, the clinching evidence. What is this? This is the sign for Libra. Do you notice anything unusual? Libra is the scale, right? Tula. Do you see anything unusual about this picture? Sorry? No, it's not tilted. This is the human face. This is the hands. Kavadi. Okay. No, the interesting thing is, yeah, that is right, partly. But I don't know anybody that carries the scale in their back behind their neck. If you know anybody, show me. Scale is carried like this. If it's a heavy scale, it will be 2 hands. But nobody will have their scale in the back of their neck. So this is actually Kavadi. So originally, Tula was represented by this symbol. But went to Islam, from there it went to Spain and got translated into Latin, and they used the word jugam, which is yoke in Latin. And then that becomes Tula. Sure. So the Kavadi symbol, which is well attested, Parpola has written reams about it, becomes a scale. So now we have 2 clinching evidences. We have a lot, but these are 2 that prove that the Harappan system originated the astronomy that we follow today across the world. So this is Dr. Brenda Beck's picture from the recent seminar. I was never able to find a picture in the Indus corpus that connects the snake to the swastika. She found it. I was only able to find this from Kernave, somewhere in Lithuania, where two snakes are represented in the swastika form. But the typical snakes we see are the copulating snakes. It's actually a fertility symbol. But swastika is two male snakes fighting for dominance. That was their mythology. Now, this is the lion picture. Like the humans migrated from Africa, lions did too. Look at where they are. At the beginning of the Holocene period, they are there all over the Indus Valley. Now they are in one small corner in the Gir forest. So they were there, they didn't represent it. Deliberately so, because we are the tiger people, not the lion people. Now I go into the astronomy, we don't have to go through this. Archaeo-Astronomy shows that these events they were tracking are real. This is the Cunningham seal. It occurs once or twice in 100 years. This is the Great Bath and why I think so. So this is the 12 years. This is, I believe, the moon temple. How did the Harappans calculate the epicycle? I put it here. Harappan origin of the star map. Now, why I know this so well is, or we could prove this is, there is an astronomer, a British astronomer by name Walter Maunder. You can read his book, published in 1912. He studied the star map and he showed that the culture that would have originally created this star map that we follow, based on where the gaps are in the star map, he postulated that it would have come from the year 3100 to 2700 BCE and in a particular 37 or 38 degree north latitude. So there is a Indus site in that, in Shortugai. Okay. Very important. Yeah, I didn't know that. So that is where the they might have had an observatory there. This I don't know. So this is fine. This is fine. Why octennial? Why do you need this thing? There are astronomical reasons for it. We won't get into. Venus and rainfall, two intersecting cycles, the jar symbol. This is the Walter Maunder's theory. Because Ptolemy, none of the existing sources fit Walter Maunder's model. So we can be reasonably sure. The drum, the 24th star or Dhanishta. I was able to find, I mean, this is hypothetical at this point. All the 27 stars have a sign in the corpus, although I have not been able to prove it. So I just put it here. It's not clear to me that that is true, but I believe that to be true. We are done. I have 5 minutes. Okay. This is a very interesting finding of mine. So how did how many snakes are there, Rahu and Ketu today? It's only one snake, correct? Rahu is the head of the snake and Ketu is the tail of the snake. You all know this. This is part of the mythology. Now the Indus people had two snakes. How did this become like that? It's very interesting. So now we have to go and study the eclipse mythology of the Vedic people. You can do that yourself. You can go to Rig Veda and see a particular hymn which talks about a demon called Swarbhanu, which is the eclipse demon. And the way they release the eclipse is most interesting. Sage Atri will sing a song and the eclipse will get lifted. This is their theory. Okay? There is nowhere Swarbhanu is mentioned as a snake. It's just a demon. It's another Asura. Now, do you all know how Rahu got cut into two parts? The story. It's a very famous story from mythology. The Samudra Manthan. What happens in the Samudra Manthan? They did the Samudra Manthan, the nectar comes. They decided they will only give it to the Devas, but then Rahu sneaks in there, which is Swarbhanu, and eats the nectar. By the time the nectar reached the Rahu's throat, Vishnu spotted it in the form of Mohini, and he cuts off Rahu's head. Now, then it becomes immortal, right? It has got the nectar. So, Rahu has occupied the one of the lunar nodes, and Ketu occupies the other lunar node. Our mythology has changed. In fact, we don't even know what the old word for Rahu and Ketu is. Yeah. Sun worship. Okay. I see. Oh, I see. I didn't know that. Yeah. Oh, nice. Very nice. So this is another example how the bilingual parallel, how the cultures commingle and change things. So that is how it shifted from Venus. So Venus to Jovian is also an interesting thing. Okay. So far we have seen, I have not really done any comparative mythology that greatly. But no other culture has Shukra as a god of the teacher of the Asuras and Jupiter as the teacher of the Devas. I don't believe any other mythology has this. So, how did they get that concept? And you know what I found? Very interesting. I don't know whether I put it here. Maybe I did. Yeah. The old Dravidian word for Venus is Vaikuru. Now, Guru is homophonous with the Vedic Guru. So, since these people obsess about Venus, they figured out that, okay, Venus must be the teacher. Now, we have to shift the teacher system from Venus to something else, which is Jupiter, which they were also tracking. So, this is how it changed, and it was a goddess and it is changed to a male. All of these things have happened. And the switch from Venus to Jovian, which is where the 12 years, the Mahakumbh is going on. 12 years. 12 years is because it's Jupiter's cycle. So you're all okay with me so far? So we no longer even track Venus. I mean, I don't believe it's minor. Jupiter is big, super important. So that's it. That's all I have. I could talk for another 3 hours, as you may have guessed, but I'm thanking you for the opportunity.